join us on Science and the Mystical today. I'm very excited to introduce you to the guest that we have, and I'll hold off for a second before I reveal who this is. Obviously, you can see him there. I love interviewing people that are unique and that can empower us from the depths of our being. And these are people that you might not otherwise know about. And I'm thrilled to smithereens to welcome them and share them with the world, because they're part of my world. And I have some amazing people in my world. So today it's going to be a super wild ride with Derek Pennett. And everybody's really well familiar with the universe. Well, today we're going to talk about the multiverse. And that's a word that's being used a little bit more in some circles these days. But Derek is an expert. He assembles and he integrates many levels of consciousness from the offerings of the cosmos. So we also can agree that the world has been turned upside down a little bit in the recent years, and very recent years. And I really take comfort in knowing that the planets and the celestial bodies of our soul system, SOL, is that how you say it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's so much sacred wisdom there and vibrational energies that we can draw from and find comfort in, and have be exposed to the deeper meanings behind this, traversing this density. So Derek, as a cosmic messenger, full spectrum healer, multidimensional Reiki master and teacher, and musician and artist, I welcome you today.
Oh, thanks, Maureen. That's one heck of an introduction. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here on your show and just sharing all of these sacred wisdoms. And yes, we are going to be diving deep into the multiverse. I did want to say, when you brought up the soul system, think of soul, SOL, in two contexts. A, we have a binary star system, so it speaks to that, but then it also speaks to the soul of the system. And we come here into the soul system to learn about our souls, because it's pronounced the same, but it's just spelt differently. It's pretty interesting stuff, because all the planets hold all the codes to us being our illuminated beings, right? It's pretty fantastic. It's
Absolutely.
awesome.
And we're doing this recording on spring solstice. So it's or very close to. So it's a really powerful time to dive into these topics. And even if people are listening beyond this, you'll still get the energy coming through of the solstice.
The light codes coming through.
The light codes, yeah. So hopefully you'll speak to that as we go through. So Derek, can you tell people what you do? Because we, clearly already we can see that you have so much to offer that many people haven't even heard about.
All right. Well, definitely dive into that. Just to let people know so they stay excited for the show. The main topic today that we're going to be talking about is I'm going to run you through all what I'm calling it the metaphysical parts of the human energy field and the stellar and the subtle bodies. So I'm going to run you through all of your different metaphysical parts that you have. Now, a little bit about myself. So I've been active in my practice since 2016. But when it all started in the form that we see me today was more 2012 portal. And then after that, once that gateway opened and the Mayan calendar came to its completion, it was a huge opening inside of myself. Now, this, for me, it didn't happen overnight. Some people have big Kundalini awakenings one day all of a sudden. Mine was gradual, but it started off with a kick. All the downloads of the matrix coming through, metaphysical insights, they were just flooding my field, and books and information was coming from me from all over the place. It was amazing. Now, I've had these metaphysical experiences since I was a little kid. They've always been there, like lights flashing. I hear a wide spectrum of like tones coming out my ear, frequencies entering the body, and tremendous amounts of visualizations, as well as just even if I'm walking down the street, sometimes chunks of reality flip out and other frames place themselves over top. And I felt like I could bilocate. So I'm like, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have a language, right? So after the 2012 portal came, it was all about studies, which my destiny points in an astrology chart are called the nodes of the moon, the south and the north node. And they point you, specifically the north node, to where you want to go to advance your realms of self awareness. And I am the way of the study. So it put me on this path right until 2016, study and reading. It was color therapy, anything you could bring in that was metaphysical. I wanted to know a little bit about it. Animal spirit guides, psychic surgery, what is sacred geometry, right? So I assembled it all together. And then in 2016, I didn't see it coming. Somebody gifted me my Reiki first degree training. Total gift. Had never done energy work before, but all the language I spoke was always cosmic and talked about energy particles, frequencies, electromagnetic fields, etc. So the two met after I had my Reiki experience. My whole entire body went through a cleanse within 72 hours. It was so intense. Wildlife was coming over. If animals were about to pass away, they would come to my house. A dog went under the deck, and we were later found out he passed away a couple days later because it was just attracted to these frequencies. Very shortly after that, I started practicing Reiki and just offering and testing it out and friends and family and things like that. And by the time I got my third degree, so 2016 and then 2018, so I lived in Saskatchewan. I moved out to Vancouver Island, took my level three. I was already almost teaching the people who gave me level two what level two was all about in my level two class. So I found that really interesting. Genuinely, I was excited, but it was just so natural to me, like I had done it before. But when I did level three, that's when it really expanded. And within a week, there was like seeing the auras like never before, all the metaphysical parts of the body, additional chakra systems, and really advanced language that came through me, but I understood it. It's
Well,
like I said before, it's like I had done it as a star seed before. And that just really expanded and elevated everything to new heights. And from that point forward, the books, the info that I was checking out before, it took a huge giant leap and I got even more advanced material. And then all the things that I had done, I now had language for them. Like, where are you getting your downloads from, Derek? Well, I talked to the galactic central sun. Well, what's that all about? And then we go and we check my galactic astrology on my birth chart. So that's everything happening off planet. And it shows on there that I talk to the galactic central sun. Things like that started to verify all the things that I already knew. And I didn't need the verification, but it's so cool when it happens. So it just kind of like assembled itself that way. And a lot of off planet activity, being Octurian and Spiken, that all kind of came through. I opened up a healing space with my partner, Hillary Raven Porter, and we had a little smaller one. It was primarily hers, but I used it for a couple days a week because I was doing stuff out of my home before, and I just kept practicing and practicing for years and years. And then once 2019 hit, it was all professional activity from that point forward. And it's just incredible. So that's like this very, very short story.
yeah. So when all of this initiated, did you recognize yourself anymore? Or were you,
No,
yeah, were you somebody
not,
else? Like who did you see?
well, it was interesting because I'm completely different than what I was before, but yet I felt like I came into myself even more. It
Hmm.
was more of who I really truly was. Because to say that I've been off planet, never been to this planet before, and I'm going to leave right after this lifetime and probably not come back anytime soon, and to have all of that stuff come full circle in terms of the metaphysical world around me, my multiverse, showing me that that's exactly what's taking place. One could look at themselves and go, whoa, man, have you ever shifted, right? Because, we all look at ourselves when we were kids and so much happens, right? And then all of a sudden, I realized that no, I'm coming in full circle. Because then after that period, a little bit of my old self came in and almost created like a little bit of a fusion, a fractal into its outer casing. And it was the marriage of both those realms that really, because we live in a polarity experience on earth. So it's going to come full spectrum at some point and put that there. But old behaviors, patterns, things that I needed to shift, attachments, releasing, transmutation of energies, drama, star karma. I had to go through all of that, and that took about a decade to process it all. It's not done, it never is, but the bulk of that really heavy content got transmuted. So to answer your question, Maureen, I do recognize myself even more as my true self, but I'm completely radically different than who I was before.
And how about the people around you? Did they relate to you anymore? Did you have, was there a whole new group of people who came in who actually understood you?
Yeah, definitely a whole new group of people. I had a tremendous amount of beings around me that I knew from a very young age, high school and kindergarten. Some trickled in after. Giant group of beings, very social out in the community. This is in Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
And as the awakening started to happen in 2012, all of a sudden the secrets, the whatever people were doing behind closed doors, all the stuff that I did, all of it came flooding out, and that whole entire picture dissolved, all of it. So it was like completely gone. A few of those beings I still interact with today subtly, but it's very little communication from those doors. I kind of made the announcement that when I was leaving, that this was a beautiful chapter in my life, and that now I'm on to something new. But if I see you, whether we had something intense or not, I'll still, give you a handshake, and in some cases, maybe a hug too. I may not hang out with you, but I definitely understand you as being an important soul on the journey of the multiverse. So, yeah. So it radically shifted, and I had to absorb all that too and work with it. It was intense. It was not a pleasant experience by any means, but it was one that I was grateful for because it refined me and it connected me more to my higher self, and that's the gift of the cosmos.
What's fascinating to me is that you understood it at the time. I mean, and you still do. You have this incredible ability to be with it all and understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
It's like the frequency changes, and then you find something else that matches that new frequency, right? And then you get in there. But could that change again? Yes. But once we really upgrade, we go into a new baseline, and then we can coast for long periods of time as long as we're keeping ourselves tuned up, for sure. You had something earlier, Maureen, before we get into everything, that you wanted to ask me about like the sun and something to do with like portals and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for the reminder. So if we look at the sun, we've always been told, don't look at the sun. It'll damage your eyes, and be really, really careful. Yet it's an ancestral spiritual practice. So in that being said, my little mind always wonders whether by telling us not to means we absolutely should be for our spiritual evolution. It's a question that I always have. I'm not talking midday sun. I'm talking dusk and dawn, right? Because that's the safer way, because our eyes are very, very sensitive. So the sun, from our conversations, the sun is the master executive director of all other things, even our biological systems in our body. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. So some cool facts about our sun. So it is the master generator and governor of all of our different body systems. It's like it runs the solar system, and it runs the mini solar system within us, because we have the same amount of particles in us that are out there in cells, particles that they're out there in the cosmos. So it's really fascinating how that works. So it's like watching over all of our body systems, making sure that the engine is operating at max capacity. Now, where life goes, where our attention goes. So when we point ourselves at the sun, then we start to absorb and generate more of those frequencies. And society right now is attempting, the mainstream stuff is attempting to point us away from the sun, our divine connection. And the sun, when you go back to Egyptian times, Lemuria, Atlantis, all of them was all about, I don't want to say worshiping the sun, but like thanking it for all of its gifts and information. Because when that light comes and enters the planet, it's not just giving us nutrients to operate our biological form. It's giving us information, key codes about reality. And it can translate through the human body through words, dreams, third eye activations, all sorts of stuff. So it's neat that way. The sun is alive. When you ascend up and then you go back to source and you no longer have a body, you can also, if you choose, work towards becoming a planet or a sun. The sun's the next level after a planet. It just keeps going to keep life vibrant, fun, and amazing. So the sun is upgrading with us in consciousness. Yes, it's the executive director, but it also needs us. It's a co-creation. And another cool one about the sun is it has stargates attached to it. I believe it's Stargate number 4 and number 12. So there's 12 stargates on Earth, 12 dimensions of incarnational reality, and 12 strands of DNA. So there's also the portals. And when you enter these portals, they warp you to different parts of the cosmos so that the distance isn't much of a factor to play with, especially when you're dealing with certain types of technology that we're working with, right? You can just literally time warp over. So they use it as interdimensional trade highways as well, too.
So, okay.
Access goods, bring ships through all, you name it.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So I had a father that was very much into aliens and UFOs and ships,
Wow.
things like that. So, in his most rudimentary way, and it was very simple, yet it was always it was conversation. So that being said, do we, with these systems of transportation, I can't even talk, I'm in another realm, transportation, and the connection to the stargates and beyond, are we fully conscious of that when it happens, or does it happen more from the subconscious level?
There's a lot of beings who access it in both planes of existence, and no more are important than the others. Say, like on a tangible, tactile way of being able to put your hands on and touch it, it's very real that way. It's not just happening in the astral and the etheric realms, but some people experience it that way. But then we have to watch out too, because we're living in the world of illusions right now. So sometimes when you see things broadcasted on the screen, you don't actually know if that graphic is real or if they overlaid something to then have some sort of an agenda that they could work with it. So we have to be mindful that that can also point our attention into different directions. But really, even when it's there, it's still telling us something fantastical happened. So regularly, quite frequently, all solar year round, there is ships and beings entering our solar system through a wide variety of ways. One is the sun, and they are coming in. And then other people are starting to have subconscious memories of those things happening because they were maybe taken aboard on a ship, or they had something happen during their dream space where their astral body got taken off and then used. And a lot of those cases, sometimes they're intense and they weren't called for. And that's, entity attachment stuff. I do sessions where I help beings with that on a regular basis. But then also a lot of it's our choice. We made the choice to go up there. And then we have this re-remembering of the experiences. And why is it happening that way? Because humans have been so disconnected from fantastical happenings that it's a shock to the system, and the nervous system can't necessarily handle it. So we're easing it slowly into the mass consciousness so it doesn't get instantly be rejected as fantasy. It's pretty cool stuff.
Because out there, I mean, with our exposure to movies and entertainment and people that watch, the news and whatever. There's so many sources of information. I had a friend who worked with the X-Files, and he had a really simple job of just, driving the truck across the scene, the great big semi you saw. I was probably in there. And he would tell stories of how that all the stuff that you saw in there actually happened to the writer. And it's like, so if we've seen movies and we've seen all these things, it's likely it's happened in somebody's experience. So it's like a foretelling, of what's out there, what's to come.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. I love it. And those messages do get implanted in there. Sometimes they come from scenarios we don't really like. Some of them are natural and they really happened, and other times they were, let's just say, there's a lot of money involved in these things, and in some cases they are given the wisdom, but
Uh,
they didn't necessarily have the experiences so that they could input it into the content. But either way, I would say that way more humans on Earth, Earthlings, Earth seeds, are having tons of those experiences on a consistent weekly basis all year round, and it's not going to stop. It's only going to keep going up as because the cosmos is opening up to its biggest climax ever for Earth for ascension processes. So that means even more cosmic activity is going to happen, more spirit guides, more wisdoms coming through, more moments of self awareness, right? And all that stuff. So it's pretty fascinating how it works.
love
Yeah, totally. So should we get into the metaphysical body parts? So did you have any other quick questions you wanted to ask me beforehand?
We could talk for hours, and we know that. So
Oh my gosh, Maureen, we'd go off. This could be like 4 or 5 hours long, easy.
let's stay focused. Subtle
Okay.
bodies. What is the subtle body?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a rundown of all the metaphysical parts that are a part of us. And just to quickly mention before we get into the subtle bodies, because I'm going to start with what's closest to the body, and then we're going to work our way out into the auric field, okay? And then go beyond that. All of the parts that I'm about to mention today, whether you have a language for them or not, you know the terms or not, doesn't matter. They're with you everywhere you go. You have them all the time. Imagine trying to make a car drive and the only thing you have is an engine. It's not going to go. You need all the other parts to make it happen, right? So we're going to go through those and we use them on a regular basis. So I'll give you a few clues along the way and how people experience them every single day of their lives on a regular basis. So subtle bodies, that's one of the most common terms that we have that are being used right now. And you hear it a lot in the yoga community, in the yogic areas. And subtle bodies for a lot of people represent all of the other bodies that you have with you that are like more operating on an energetic and vibrational level. They talk to the cells and stuff like that. All the info I'm giving you right now, they're all energy, frequency, sound, vibrations, and energy, right? Because it's all energy first. We walk into a room and somebody says, I feel the vibration change, or I need some food for energy. I'm going to put some fuel in my car. It's all energetic, no matter what we do. So, the very first subtle body that we have is known as the etheric double. And that one's about an inch or two right above the physical body. You can imagine it as being like if you were a semi transparent body outline of me drawn, icy blue with a little bits of purple in there. And that would be layered right over top of your body. That is the very first step after the physical, right? But I look at it as the other way around because everything starts out here in the spiritual and then manifests as physical last. Okay? Because even when you get injured, let's say you even have a physical injury and something hit you, it's still coming through your auric field, then entering your body. So the etheric double is basically the physical on an energetic level. Think of it as kind of like fifth dimensional, like when people say 50% of my energy body meets 50% of the physical, and I've stepped up to the next dimension. That's your etheric double. Usually you have like if you have some sort of physical dis-ease, underlying condition, that's the place that you want to go to address it if you're doing energy work. There can be like rips and tears in it, but then it can also be a place that holds us and makes things very robust. For instance, so it's going to lead me in a little bit into the second body, which is called the astral twin. That's another couple inches after the etheric double. Okay, so the astral twin is everything you do in the etheric realms, right? Think of dream space. That's the easiest one for people to understand. So you go into dream space and you go places, you go on an adventure and a journey. You're using your astral twin to go on that quest. But how are you anchoring it into the physical? You're using your etheric double to hold it into place. So that imprint is safe and secure while you're laying and sleeping. But the same could be said if you went to a guided meditation and you're maybe it's at the end of a yoga class, maybe you went to some sound healing and they opened it up and had a ceremony and they're guiding you through a process, and somebody's like, wow, I felt like I went over to a meadow or I journeyed to another planet. You are already astral traveling. So people are doing this regularly, but then your etheric double is anchoring it down into the physical as well too, right? So if somebody has breaks in their bones or they're having, it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be inflammation in the body and the whole bit. You want to address simultaneously the etheric double and on the physical plane as well to resolve the whole issue that's going on. And when you scan the body and you see, for myself, when I see an etheric double, it'll have like different pods pop up. So over here might be the feet, and over here might be like the solar plexus, and there could be some leakage happening here, or this area is really charged up and it's just glowing, right? It'll kind of give us, it's a way to have a map of the physical body, no different than an acupuncturist, knowing where those points on the body go. It's pretty cool. So then that's how people who work in the auric field, energy healers, a lot of them use the etheric double, even if they're not aware of it, to get those body scans. Oh, in your session, your spleen came up and you had something going on in kidney 1 down on the bottom of your feet. Well, how did that message get to you? It came from your etheric double, which is really cool, which also relates to the first layer of your aura, but we'll get into the auras after that. So then the astral twin, the second layer, that one's still one of your subtle bodies. And that's, again, when you're in dream space, when you're going on guided adventures, or even if you're bilocating, like your cat walked by and you're pretty darn sure it was in the room, but you know it's upstairs, or you felt like you were in two places at the same time. That is an experience of going through bilocating. Another one is psychic surgery. People have heard this term. If you mainstream check it out, they bash it completely. That's like the false statement is, well, I went in and I dug out, we pulled some of that organ out of the body. We all saw that when we were kids. That's false. That's totally fake. Psychic surgery is you and your guides going in on the astral plane, which relates to the heart medicine as well too, the full plane of the heart chakra. And it goes in and you're doing work together. If you've ever felt like there was another energetic hand over top of you while you were doing something, specifically, I relate a lot of things to giving treatments because that's my vocation, right? But that's where it comes in a lot. And then you can do things that you can't normally do on the physical plane because it's more of a quantum experience. And the guides come in and they move really fast. So anytime you've had those experiences, oh, the being's really close to me and it felt like they offered me a gift or put a crystal on my spine, right? That's where that comes from. Now, the next one after that is really fascinating. And this is probably the utmost common one, especially in the metaphysical communities, is your higher self. So your higher self is another layer, a few more inches off the body after your astral twin. And your higher self is you, Maureen, and everybody else has one, connected to source, fully realized, fully equipped with all the wisdoms and no distortions. So somebody's walking around on the planet, life's really difficult for them, or they're having a really good time. It doesn't matter. But let's say it's difficult. Just nobody's with me. The cosmos isn't here. The universe doesn't have my back, etc. Life is difficult. All that language that comes out. You have your higher self with you everywhere you go that can answer any question you could ever throw at it. But we don't slow down to ask ourselves the messages. And let's say you forget to do your higher self and talk to them. You can just talk to your physical body and it will respond in messages, muscle twitches. Sometimes you get like one of your organs will shoot out a bunch of fluids at the exact time you had that thought because your body is an interstellar messaging machine. So your higher self is a future self of you. It's on a different timeline and they're all close to us. But the more we work on them, the closer they come, the more we can pull them in. Because the idea with all these subtle bodies is we want to fuse them into one. right? So ask your higher self anything. It has all the wisdoms, it's seen all your lifetimes, and it's cheering you on. So it's amazing. It's like you, the ascended form of you. And then after your higher self, you move into your essence self, which is your soul essence. The soul enters the body. How are you animating it? What? You're just lifting up these bones naturally because electrical currents, energies, and souls are inside of you. So it's already fantastical to begin with. The fact that we even enter in a body is pretty wild. So your essence self is that 0 point field, that essence inside of you that is just feeling it on an energetic level. When you slow down and you're holding the crystal in your hand, or your hands on a tree, or you drank a cup of tea and you're laying in the grass, or you can stare at a blank wall for hours and you feel great. That's the essence of life. That is like your personality, your character essence of you. It holds great wisdom. And then after your essence self, you have a merging. May have heard of maiden, mother, and crone. Those are known as maiden and mother crone bodies and templates. And those three make up the divine elder, being the crone, right? The maiden being the turning into the divine feminine woman. And then you have the mother as well for all of the nurturing. Those templates and those bodies are the same for the divine masculine and the divine elder within as well too. But we are on a planet that is very feminine in a lot of ways, and it just is what it is. Mother Earth, Gaia, the goddess that created and gave birth to the universe, it's still equal on all planes of existence of everything fusing into one, but it's very much that essence, and we've been detached from it for, well over 25,000 years since the fall of Atlantis, right? So it's an interesting mix. So integrating all those subtle bodies, bringing them all fused together, then will create your completed subtle body. So that's stage one of your metaphysical parts. Short version.
Oh my goodness. It's complex.
It's very complex, but your soul knows on an energetic level. That's why it's good to have this stuff come through, because you were talking earlier about light codes. These transmissions that we're sharing with you today, it may be 2 years down the road. It might be tomorrow. It might be right during the video. But when you go back to pass through it, oh, it starts to remember all that because we're talking to your cells, your bones, and your DNA by intention and just by natural. Because you were saying earlier, Derek Pennett, Lightbody technician, right? That's all these metaphysical parts. Reiki master teacher, but I like the last one, metaphysical activator. Just by being around me or others who have these codes, right? You know all about it. Things get activated and they start to change when they're around your field, right? That's why some people run off and they can't be near you because they don't want to change. Or you're not meant to be their catalyst. But in other ways, it's representing the nature that our auric fields are connected wherever we go. They stick out 10 feet from the body. So when you go into a crowd, how many beings are you mixing with? Oh, there's about 25 around me right now. Boom, all crossing hairs. It's pretty cool. So that's a subtle body, Maureen.
There you go. Wow, not so subtle. Oh my gosh. It's a huge topic. I'm sure that you micronize it down even further if you were to just study that for 10 years or something. It's like
Totally.
I have a question. I want to go back
Yes.
to a guy from Saskatchewan who's just gets this download or is activated, however you want to put it.
hmm
Because your brain has unbelievable capacity to retain information. It really does, and to articulate it. Was that you before activation, or was that one of the gifts that was bestowed upon you?
It was definitely a gift, but it took many years of refinement to kind of have the language come out. I was really grateful and kind of blown away that after, chunks of time, I can't give you an exact amount, but like 3 to 6 months would go by, and suddenly I was able to comprehend it on a very deep level. We're talking when you're talking about the Saskatchewan version of myself
Okay.
when I moved out here, it assimilated in really fast, like super quick. But that stuff, yeah, it took a little bit to get it going. But the thing is once I had that, it stayed. And then the next layer came 3 to 6 months after that, and it interjected into myself. But I was also having direct experiences with cleansing and shifting myself. Because you can have all these subtle bodies, but they bring self-awareness. They refine you and your connection to the multiverse. They make you the best version of yourself. So I went through the process, all the core root patterns that came up, all of the times my DNA spoke to me, all of the wild experiences I had as a kid. I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to shift them. I wanted to heal them. I wanted to integrate them so that when I come and do a healing session, I've not only had the personal experience, I can relate to where you are, and we can then have that language to be able to help you in any department. And if I didn't have to transmute it in myself, I was seeing it like, whoa, because I can close my eyes right now, move my eyes up and down, and then tell my mind what color I want to see, and that color will pop up. Or I can look at a certain chakra and it'll glow that color. I started to practice that when I was in Kundalini yoga class for quite a number of years. And they'd always get you to point it up to your third eye. Close your eyes, point them up to the third eye, breathe in, boom, you do your opening introduction mantra, calling in all the energies, and it would turn purple. So I just started to learn by those experiences. But then when somebody else has that experience, well, green came in today. Well, now we can talk about it and we can go deep because I want to be able to meet you at whatever your level was. So that's why it sunk in so deep, was because I asked it to go into the core of my being, deep as it can possibly go.
Saskatchewan holds space for a lot of incredible experiences. There's something about out there.
Yep.
I've heard so many stories, and it's like, if we want to talk star seeds, earth seeds, all those sorts of things, it's like it said, oh, there's a lot of space here. Boom, we'll just inoculate the area. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. I've driven through Saskatchewan, and I don't mean to belabor Saskatchewan, but there's this incredible vastness that is like, it's like being on the moon there. It truly
Hmm.
is. So it's already like another planet when you're driving down the road in the dark. um,
Yeah.
so there's something there for me. I've driven through on my way to the East Coast, and it's like, what is it with Saskatchewan? Like, I'm so intrigued. So
Hmm.
yeah. Do you?
It's definitely a power center for sure. There's no doubt about it. And it was for like for it doesn't look like it would be a super diverse place, but it gives you a little bit of a taste of everything that the planet has to offer. If you go, you have to go looking for it, you have to dig for it, you have to go search for it. But I mean, this wild child, it raised me and it gave me some pretty fantastical experiences. So I'm very grateful for it. But the open plane and the skies and how it works, it is another dimension. It
Yeah.
totally is. And it's in a lot of ways, it's a hardcore place to live. And I don't mean hardcore in like super mega ultra violent. It's just hardcore. It's minus 40 in the winter to plus 40 in the summer. You got open sky, tons of sunlight. And if you want to go for like a recharge and like get in touch with your soul and get a dose of that, the summer's out there. It'll put you through everything that you need to go through, which anywhere will, but it's a very magical place. But the thing is, it worked with my codes because I needed to be raised in a dry climate that had lots of sunshine. Because I would speak to the sun as when I was a kid too. I'd go off on the playground and I would have long interdimensional communications with the sun for months on end. I would just leave for 45 minutes. All the kids are playing. My head's tilted up and I'm talking to the sun as it was my best friend. It was amazing.
What did your parents think about these little things, these idiosyncrasies?
They're they've always let me be who I want to be. I don't think they've ever told me the truth inside of their core because they may not have gotten to fully know themselves on that higher plane to be able to express it. But from the level that they're at, they accept me for who I am. They let me do what I'm doing. My mom's a little bit more open to that sort of stuff. My dad just kind of listens to those things, and it's not really on their general pathway. I don't know the truth of how they view it, but I know that they don't fully understand it.
Well, the fact that they were continued to be there for you, and it sounds like in a loving way, um, that's really pretty wonderful.
Which is interesting too, because my whole timeline with my family is very much pulled away from them. So they did do a very good job of like, here's just, I had a pretty good straightforward childhood. However, I did get the ringer in the matrix. I went to the Catholic school. They threw me into the French program. My parents were very detached from me when it came to like lots of hugs and love and that stuff. It wasn't necessarily like it was a bad thing, but it was definitely depleted to the level that maybe my soul wanted as a child. But my whole entire destiny is about being detached from that family because I'm not from this planet, so they're not part of my soul group. So it always felt a bit disconnected. So when it comes to family bloodlines in this lifetime on this planet, I'm meant to be having dramatic, epic amounts of space. We go many months between talking to each other, and it's not even like we missed a blip when we communicate back. And it's just supposed to be that way. I've always felt it. It like forced not a disconnect because we're connected in the multiverse, but galactically and on a 3D plane, I was supposed to be doing my own thing so that I could assemble all this wisdom and get all this knowledge. But you know what? They gave birth to a rad star seed. So they
Ah,
did good. And that's a lot for, somebody, if they don't have the experience, they wouldn't even know what to do with it anyways. But everything since I was a little kid, Maureen, super cosmic. Everything I got involved in, whether it was music, the cartoons I watched, everything. Cosmos, cosmos, cosmos. It was amazing. So to answer really quickly earlier too, when you were like, how I'm integrating all of this into my life, and like how it stays in the encyclopedia from like the Saskatchewan days on and stuff like that. Yes, I integrated it into my cells, but I also wanted to let people know that I don't ever stop. So as soon as something's done, I'm like, well, what's next? There has to be more to it. I want the story to explain itself. I want the Akashic records, the cosmic internet, to tell me everything that ever was about me and my metaphysical self so that I can have a greater understanding of how far we needed to go, right? And then if it reaches that point and you're like, hey, here, that's your structure, cool. Then we work within that and meet it at that level, right? I'm a Aries by nature. I'm very curious, super curious. And I just launch myself out there and I want to know what's next. But because of my way of the study, it's all about refining those areas. That's why I take 6, 8 months, 2 years to just practice, embody, test out my sessions, go deep into color therapy and master it. But then after that, keep adding to it anyways.
mhm.
Just subtle little refinements because some you might come and share some wisdom about a color. And I'm like, cool, never knew that before. Add it into the mix. There's too many people right now arguing and having stuff about like what's right and who wants to control when it comes to metaphysics and like doing all the ceremonies and hosting everything. For me, it's much different. It's about adding more into the mix,
Mhm.
right? I want to go to the advanced levels and I want to include it all, the best of the best from all the most potent books and places on earth have to offer.
And there's no place for righteousness within, that journey. There really isn't.
Exactly.
It's all about being
Totally.
humble and falling into the arms of what's next. That's what I hear you saying. And it comes with robust enthusiasm, which is just a gift, totally a gift.
Yeah.
So glad that we touched upon the subtle bodies. We didn't have
Okay.
time to get into the other ones, so I hope you'll come back and we'll do that because there's so much more to learn. But I want to know, what is it that you offer? So when I come to see you, what does that look
Mhm.
like? Or somebody, makes an appointment. lots of times probably people, I'm just assuming, they're going, I don't know, what do you think I should do? Because I think I did that too.
Yeah. For sure. No, this sounds awesome. Just briefly to mention too, we talked earlier about doing a part two. What a way to like leave it open for part two. I think that would be amazing. So I'd love to come back on your show and continue finishing the metaphysical parts because the stuff that I do would love to chat about with the community would be just really briefly, we would go into the light body. We talk about the 7 layers of the aura, the galactic cord above the head, and then the fifth dimensional chakra system, the Merkaba, Harline core star, and finally your Hova body. So that would be awesome to just segue into that because we were kind of wondering what we would do next. I think that'd be perfect. Now, as far as what I offer, I find a lot of beings are just attracted to come to me. They're just like, it's just a sudden meeting where they're just like, I was so curious about you, and I just had to come over to your booth at that market. Or they see me on the street and they need to talk to me. Other people, I don't even get much information until they actually show up to the session. They just called me up, booked in. They're like, and then after they tell me, I was so curious about what you do. Once in a while, though, people will hear from other people and get recommendations. And then that'll be for maybe a physical ailment that they're going through or something. And then they hear that the medicines that I offer can help with what they're going through. So we bring that in as well, too. I do workshops. I'm big time on the social media, all over the place making videos. So there's so much different angles, right? That people can find me. Oh, I saw your artwork and it had an activation. I'd like to come in and get a session where we focus on that. So it's kind of all over the place as well too with that, which I wouldn't have it any other way. It keeps life fresh, diverse, and everybody's unique. So no two paths are the same. So I offer multidimensional Reiki sessions that come as multidimensional Reiki, theta wave Reiki, or Aura Scan, and we go through all 7 of your layers and you get a full report. My sessions average to be about an hour and 45 minutes. Some are an hour and a half, some are 2 hours. And I have all the lovely things where you can add on half an hour, or we can put in a guided meditation if you'd like for half an hour before or after the session. I like it at the beginning to get you activated. We're in the Star Temple, so this is where I practice in the space. And then I also do, my partner Hillary trained me in Sacred Heart Tamiana, which Tamiana is really big in South America and Central America. She gets the second wave downloads of information, so it's upgraded to a whole nother level. So I offer various versions of Tamiana, and we start you off at the beginning, which is foundational, to hopefully get you to the end in Palladian Star Code, which you experienced, right? We talked earlier about wanting to continue this talk and Merkaba spin that helps repairing that one. So I offer those things. And in my sessions, I bring in a whole bunch of different medicines. So tuning forks, vibrational elixirs, crystals, sound healing tools. I don't know if you can fully see behind me, everyone. That's the table in the Star Temple. So on the table here too, we have a multi-wave mat as well. So when you lay on it, you're on a bed of crystals. And then you get five crystals, PEMP cycle for some electromagnetic frequencies, ionization, like very high levels, like a Himalayan salt lamp, powered up to the max. And then you also get far infrared. So especially in the wintertime, it heats up, feels so cozy. So it's basically like what comes in the moment. We cater it to your being. And then after you're done, you get a follow-up email and you've seen them. I give a full report of absolutely every single thing that we used, why it came in, what was it for, and here's how it can be used at home, some tools. And then also if you are to come back and follow up, here's a whole slew of options for you to keep that vortex going and to keep you refined. A lot of people, though, Maureen, do come to me for tune-ups too. They just want to get a little bit metaphysically activated, help out with their nervous system, and then create some good energy fields and like make sure the organs and the lymphatic and the endocrine are working good and all the chakras are tuned up, all that wonderful stuff. So, and sometimes it's heavy. It can be traumatic too. It can be really intense. Somebody will share a big story. This space is here for you to go through whatever you want. If you're twitching on the table because you're getting activated or you're emotionally purging, it's all welcome. And it's got a 5G bioshield protecting the space. No frequencies are getting in that you don't want from all the EMF and Sorry about that, a little shake there, and the data towers and all that jazz.
How often do you begin a session and change direction?
Change direction. So I'm guided to go on the flow. So it changes quite frequently, but they all have a template that I start with. And I honor that template because it brought me to the place that I am today. And it was passed down through the generation through masterful beings. So I use that as my foundation, but it needs to be catered to the person that's coming in because their soul pathway is going to be completely different than somebody else's. But if we're doing a chelation method and you have to go right into the feet, whatever that means for what I'm doing, I know all the terms, that's still going to be done almost the same way every time because there's some protocols that just do it, right? But if we do a stellar gateway activation, it's kind of the same, but it shifts and moves depending on the person a little bit too, right? But if you want to like, work on the first layer of the aura, then you have to be within 1 to 2 inches of the body. So it's a co-creation dance between the two. I look at it as like musicians on a stage. They know that song and they're playing it, but they're jamming off with those parameters.
You use
It's kind of like that.
well.
Hmm?
You use tuning forks as well.
Oh, yes, the tuning forks are amazing. So those come in. They're basically acutonics line, and the tuning forks. Here, I'll go grab one. These are all of them back here, lined up along the wall. So I'll start with the easiest ones, but they're all based on planets, except there's a couple that are like these, which are Om fork. We all know Om, the classic symbol, and that's basically like the 0 point field, the master tone of the universe. All of our planets make a sound. In astrology, those sounds get transmitted as all the information people tell you about the planets and your signs. So when you activate the tuning fork, we have an activator, boom, it goes around the leg, tap it, and then the sound frequencies of that planet or whatever is encoded into here then resonate and go through. So if it was Mars fork, you would get the Mars energies, good for the blood, bringing in passion, launching yourself into the unknown, your raw identity, right? Courage, bravery. So, and it can also help with people being overly defensive as well, too. So it depends what's needed. And when you place it on the body, you can feel it vibrating inside, right down to your bones. It's so good. And when it's in the auric field, you can feel those frequencies on a subtle level making changes inside of you. You might feel little particles on your skin or like little sensations in and around your head. Because if you put them up to your ears, you can hear them. If you use, these are the low forks, then you have mid, and then you have high, and then high two.
Hmm.
The higher they go, those are even easier to hear just having them out in the room as well too. So it depends what you need for different reasons, but they are the best when they go down the spine. Oh my gosh.
Well, we'll have to do
Slowly up
that.
the spine.
Okay,
That's one of my sessions I offer. Huato Jajis, tuning forks for the stellar spine. You got to try that one out, Maureen.
I know. I will. I will. I will. I know you just did you did one on the bottoms of my feet on each foot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right in the center zone, and that was like so crazy good. I just
Mm.
man, that was an amazing session. So I support you full heartedly. My experiences have been amazing, and it's really allowed me to get out of my own way in
Hmm.
many so many areas. So I'm deeply grateful. That was you are such a unique bird, and I love
Aw.
so unique, and you're not afraid to be you. And that's what I love about the people that come on this show is that you've walked through the muck and the mire to get to where you're at, and nobody's gonna take that away from you. And that's
The Hall of Mirrors, I like to call it the shadow self, right?
right.
Dark night of the soul. I went through it all.
Yep, yep. And
It's pretty amazing. And one thing too that was cool when you have sessions, because like you've had them with me, you get time to talk before and after the session. It's not like 2 minutes, here's your one thing, and then you're out the door after. We settle in and give you time to learn about what's happening. The more you come see me, the more you start to hear these terms, and then you start to understand them, and they unlock more codes inside of you.
Well, practice makes it more familiar, and it brings it into your
Yeah.
consciousness. When it's in your consciousness, then you have deeper appreciation for when different things show up, and you actually have a language for that. It's like if you've never seen a certain animal in the woods, and then once you see it, you can't not see it. Like you're always on the hunt for it. You're scouring the horizon for that experience again, or that. But it's made me scour my environment for different subtleties, getting to the subtle body, and it's opened the doors to some experiences that I might have been just, I'm too busy to stop and notice that. And I'm noticing that I take the time to stop and be with that. So I love what it's doing. And just because we're coming to the close here, I really want to mention that you and Hillary are doing, and you yourself, but Hillary also are doing a lot with music. That's kind of your love is what did you call it? The spiritronica? Is that correct?
Yeah, totally. I wanted to create a genre for myself, and I've been sitting on creating a word for the longest time. I've been on this quest, Maureen, since like probably 2008, trying to think of it, and it finally came. So I call it Spiritronica. So basically, I make metaphysical music. I have 8 albums. One's coming out today. I just launched it. I'm a
Oh,
creating machine. My albums average an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And with Hillary, we also created one of them is a light language album where she speaks in galactic languages that come through the high councils and all sorts of different beings. It sounds like the goddess mother of the universe speaking through you while you're just laying on a bed of pure cloud. It's amazing. But with those mothers come tough love sometimes, so you get activated at the same time. So whether it's cellular restructuring or repairing the Merkaba spin or releasing fear, we have something in the 11 tracks that we created that's for you. Every single song has an image on all my albums, including the light language one, which I turned into like metaphysical music. It's like ambient music in the background, and it has a write up explaining what all of the stuff does, which leads me to I also create artwork too, digital energy encoded digital cosmic collages. So you got the music, it teaches you about all the things we talked about today and more. Same with the artwork, and it's encoded so that you get those frequencies when it's sent through into your being. And then I write articles on them too. So I use them as my posts explaining further some of that stuff. So if somebody happens to be on social media and they find me, go backtrack or do the search. I know at least on Facebook land you can do that, and you can go back and you can look for that article. Did Derek talk about light language? Did Derek talk about astral twin? I'm sure an article will pop up. So I do that stuff too as well, and I teach Reiki classes as well, certification courses. I mean, the list just goes on and on. We do workshops. We have booths at the fairs a lot too, and we recently did one on tuning forks and the planets. So like that was incredible as well too. And then we've done group meditations and activations before from the Tamiana line. I mean, we're kind of creating machines.
unbelievable what you guys come up with. Like it just boggles my brain. But I'm so happy to be able to participate with it on, to a
Aw.
certain degree. And there's so much value in what you guys are doing. And yeah, it's phenomenal.
Oh, it's amazing, Marina. I even get downloads from the Octurian High Council. I've had 21 to 23 transmissions, I was telling you. They've all been written down. I've shared them as posts. They're absolutely incredible when it happens. I might get a second wave download at some point. I used to be on one of the councils. So it's pretty wild. But then you might like music and somebody else might need energy work. So I want to make sure that there's a little something for everybody so that they can access it. Or if they're on the other end of the planet and they don't want to do a long distance session, which I do them live with them right here over video, that's okay too. Then they might want to access it through artwork or different forms, right? So it's kind of just throwing different things out there. and it keeps the creative machine going. But then all of it combined, like one day when I'm like, 182 quantum years on this planet, I'd love to have a whole art gallery filled with all of that stuff all together. The artwork that related with the music, sessions going on in a room in the quiet art gallery, right? In your separate space, and then have like an immersive experience. You put on the headphones. I've made videos before to go along with the music, just everything. It would just be like, I'd be so grateful for that. The grand finale before I exit the body.
You have more energy than anybody I know, and so you make it happen. And I'm going to be there, and I'll come to opening night wherever you are.
Yes.
Derek, our time is up. It went so fast. So thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
all beings that joined us here in support of the energy and showed up to just champion you today and celebrate all that you are in this dimension, which is kind of a messy place sometimes. But your work brings light and magic to everything that's going on, no matter how messy it is. So I thank you deeply for that.
Oh, thanks, Maureen. It's a pleasure to be here. This is amazing. Time went very fast, I agree.
And it's just like, boom, gone.
Yep, it's quantum for sure.
Absolutely. And we'll do some follow-up podcasts as well, just so we can expand more on what you have, because it's really a lot, and it's really big, and mostly it's really important in this day and time. So Derek, thank you.
Yes. Oh, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thanks to everybody who's watching this broadcast for sure. Like, I appreciate it so much.
Subtle bodies in her inner light ship. Subtle bodies in her inner light ship. Subtle bodies in her inner light ship.